My name is Andreas Kaufmann. Well, in Germany, they always use the title because if you write a thesis in Germany and Austria, the title becomes part of your name. So in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, I'm called Dr. Andreas Kaufmann. So anyway, I'm the chairman of the Supervisory Board of Leica Camera AG, and we own via our holding company ACM 55% of the holding company, which holds 100% of Leica. We hope to do in the next year everything which is possible to help LHSA grow. It's one of the biggest group of friends. I would call them friends. They're not customers. Yeah? They're friends, helping us to understand better certain things. They are sort of. It's a bit like the Leica family. My personal view on the camera industry is based on the fact that Leica Camera is the only one left in Europe. We're the only one left from of a certain size in Europe. That means we see things from a European point of view. The rest of the pure camera industry nowadays is mainly Japanese. The technology perspective is mainly driven still by megapixels, which quality-wise don't mean that much. You know, if it's about megapixels, you could use a Nokia phone which came on the market 2013, had 41 megapixels. And then you could use here for taking pictures the Nokia phone, tiny little small thing. And suddenly you realize it's not so much about megapixels. For instance, it's more like, it's about the photography. Yeah. And photography is something different than megapixels. And that's why we at Leica also did drive the so-called Leica galleries, 22 worldwide, which means showing photography, and especially in those days, you know, when you have the huge market for smartphone photography, showing what photography could be or has been. So it's always these two sides of the gallery. So these are my personal views, and also it describes a bit the strategy we're going into, or which we do already the last years. You know, we have a simple saying inside our company. We say, everybody shoots, nobody looks. Yeah, because, you know, when you, I use Instagram, I think, since 2011, so it was not hardly known then. The first picture posted on Instagram was 2010 by the founder. He posted a picture of his shoe and a dog. Anyway, so a picture on Instagram, 1 second, maybe only half a second. You look at it, next one, like gone. Which means everybody shoots because everybody's a photographer nowadays, sort of. Nobody looks. So, and the Leica galleries gather around photography so that you appreciate what photography can be, because with the huge amount of data on Instagram, on Snapchat, or on Twitter, or wherever, you can't really appreciate it because it's too fast and it's too much. Well, it's hard to tell 10 years from now what the industry will be doing. My personal guess, in 10 years we still do the M. Why? It's an iconic product for people who know how to shoot pictures. It has no stabilization. Yep. It has no autofocus. But you can do everything you want, and you know, I think I'm an honorary member of the ASC. Yeah. In the ASC, all the ASC people, usually they have an M somewhere to shoot because they know what they're doing. So in 10 years, from our point of view, an M will be still there. Why? It's iconic, it shows what you can do, and it's small, and you can use every lens since 1954. What the others will be doing in 10 years might be a little bit different. At the moment, you have this big word, computational imaging. We're into that too. But it might be different than people think at the moment, because computational imaging nowadays you use in smartphones because you have these tiny little devices. We have to do a lot with software and, let's say, embedded software to create a picture, and on the screen here, like here, it always works. For the camera, which would be the high end, it might be different. You see all the tendency at the moment that you might use a single shot sensor, yeah, but read it a few times, yeah, because at the end then you have a much better dynamic in the picture. That could be a trend for the next 5 years. It will be a trend. Okay, so coming to actual products in the roadmap, we showed the SL1, the first one, in 2015. Actually, it should have been there already earlier because theoretically, practical, the SL is the follow-up to our old R series. The R series was a very, let's say, successful product. But the problem was when we stopped this in 2008, it was not possible to change the whole R system into autofocus, because that was the main differentiation. The digital part, we showed this in 2003 with a digital back for the R8, R9. So the SL was one of the first pure mirrorless system cameras, although we were boasting that the M was always a mirrorless camera. So, and it was very clear, it was very clear that for the SL, at a certain time it would have been the SL1, that there's the SL2 in the pipeline, and the SL2 would have, well, we would call it a technology flagship, showing certain things and also showing certain lenses which are built in a way, the tolerances you have there, you basically can't top it. Well, I think you probably have to differentiate between innovation on existing models. Then it's always the discussion with the people who are involved. And sometimes when you come up with something which is unusual, at Leica we call this uniqueness. It doesn't happen every day. Yeah, so, and it's also tricky to do. Yeah, the old Mr. Ford of Ford Motor Company had said it. He said, if I would have asked my customers what product they wanted to have, I would have created a better horse or more powerful horse. So sometimes for innovations, you can't ask people, you have to follow your own, let's say, imagination, but still think of the customer, because at the end the customer decides, does he want it or not? Well, first thing, I always look in how I shoot and how my pictures look like and what could be done. Yeah? That's one part. Inspiration is a huge word. So sometimes, you know, sometimes you wake up during the night and say, ah, that's the idea, and then you sleep again, then the idea is gone. Yeah, you're not sure afterwards if this was the idea, it was just a dream. Places to look at. I think we have in our Leica history always, when we look into something we did and transfer this into the modern times, I think we have enough in our, let's say, you could call it the school book, yeah, to find what could be done. Because, yeah, for instance, I would like to do a camera for left-handers. 8% of the world population are left-handers, but they always have it here. Yeah, it's not done. Produced somewhere in the 50s, there was a thing which you put on top of it, and suddenly you could shoot as a left-hander. Things like this, and quite a few other things, and they were already done somewhere. So this can be also a source of inspiration. How was it done in this, let's say, optical mechanical world 50 years ago, and how would you do it nowadays? History and future, they do connect in a certain way, because this is your foundation, and in the foundation you quite find often some ideas where you think, oh, how would that look like today? And one product I'm actively developing, it's not a camera, it's the Leica watch. It's now 1.5 years prolonged because the mechanical development is killing, but we're there nearly. They should have been shown first in June 18, will be shown in April 20. So totally unique mechanical movement, German design, German production, small scale production, maybe only 500 pieces a year. I always was a bit inspired about the viewfinder part in here. There are, I think, 126 pieces or so, tiny little pieces, etc. And when you transfer this, you suddenly have a very complicated mechanical thing. And on the other hand, you know, photography is always about stopping time, capturing something and sort of freezing it. And this is, for me, this is always a little bit related with a watch. A watch shows you that time always runs, hopefully. But it's time, and on the other hand, photography is, you want to stop it, yeah? Which you can't, but it's a nice try with photography or videography. So if someone would have asked me, well, 2 times they did, what kind of huge project you would do or you would love to do, which at the moment you couldn't do. There would be a few answers, but then we go into this industry again. And so, for instance, I have 2 products which you don't have yet at the moment. One is a Leica, a professional video camera done in the way a Leica will do it, the necessity, the key elements, that because nowadays also people tend to be videographers, but the cameras I see there, they're quite often ugly and quite often too many functions which are typically for engineers, which you might not need, or you mix it up or whatever. So a Leica, that's a product I have somewhere in the back of my mind. Will be able to do it? I have not a clue. Let's see. And the other one would be, and this is just a question mark, how would a Leica smartphone look like? And what would be the features?